Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Titan Talk Business. This is one of our signature events that we bring exciting and interesting people to share their views, opinion, and their stories. I have a privilege of introducing the panel, so I'm going to start one at a time. First on my list, this is given to me, so there's no order of any kind. The first one, of course, is Paul Wasserman. Let me introduce you, Paul. Paul has an impressive resume. Paul attended Cal State Fullerton, where he met his future wife, Sutton, and graduated with BA in economics. That's the best major because I'm an economist too. Sutton, of course, Sutton, of course, graduated from Cal State Fullerton the same year with BA in business administration with concentration in marketing. After graduating from Cal State Fullerton, Paul attended Santa Clara School of Law, where he got his JD and of course became a successful lawyer. Paul is well known for his success in business, specifically with ebates.com, one of the world's largest online rebating website. In September 2014, eBate was acquired by Rakuten Inc., which is a Japanese-based company, for $1 billion. Personally, Paul enjoys piloting airplanes, refereeing competitive soccer games, and spending time with his family. Paul and Sutton have a son and daughter. Paul is currently an adjunct professor of law at Cal State Fullerton, and by all accounts, he's enjoying every minute of it. Welcome, Paul, to this event, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Dean.
The next person is our good friend, Ben Gold. Our moderator for this event is Ben Gold. Ben received his bachelor's degree in marketing from Cal State Fullerton in 2004 and completed the fully employed MBA program, which we call that FEMBA, in 2012. Ben co-founded a QuickBridge funding in 2011. In May 2020, Ben sold QuickBridge, and of course, Ben will never sit idle. He immediately founded another company called Good Funding. Ben's wife, Amy, is also a Titan alum. Ben proposed to her inside the Titan gym back in July 2007. Ben doesn't waste time. I know Ben very well. Together, they have a beautiful family. They have 2 boys and a girl. Ben is an immediate past president of our executive council. Executive council is one of the advisory body to the dean, and which basically supports our honors program. Ben also is a co-founder of Executive Council 3535 program. And Ben is an all-around genuine and perfect company, perfect person. Welcome, Ben, to this event. The next panel presenter, of course, is Laurie Resnick. Welcome, Laurie, to our esteemed panel. Laurie holds a bachelor's degree in art from political science from Cal State Fullerton. Laurie Resnick is a partner of both Associated Group, a full-service commercial display firm based in Anaheim, and Rolling Greens Nursery with multiple locations in Los Angeles. Laurie has been a part of Executive Council and Center for Entrepreneurship Board. Laurie has 1 daughter, a UCI grad, who works now in Laurie's company. This is an interesting story about Laurie. Laurie says her daughter is always embarrassed by her cheap purses Laurie carries. And Laurie tells me that she finally purchased an expensive purse. Big mistake. I should not have done it, but too late now. Laurie confessed that she's sorry that she did that because the purse did not improve her life. I didn't think so. Welcome, Laurie, to our event. And finally, our great students, Bryan Ruef. We have one amazing student in this panel, Bryan Ruef. Bryan is a Cal State Fullerton computer science student who is working on college centers for entrepreneurship and has launched his own business called 10-8 System. Bryan shares his motivation for developing 10-8 System, where he sees his innovation in the future. In April 2019, he completed the Titan Fast Pitch and won the first place. In case for some of you don't know what Titan Fast Pitch is, this is our Cal State Fullerton version of Shark Tank. And Bryan, of course, won the first place. Bryan says his advice to students considering entrepreneurship is to find something you have passion for and create your opportunity within that. We're honored to have Bryan as a part of this panel. Welcome, Bryan, to our panel. And this is introduction. Now I'll give it back to you, Trish. You're on mute.
I'm on mute. Thank you. I would like to hand this over to Ben, and he's going to dive a little bit deeper into Paul's story, along with all of our other panelists here tonight, so we can get to know everyone a little bit more. So please go.
Yeah, hi, everybody. So, this conversation is intended to be about entrepreneurship, and I think would be a great starting point for each of the panelists on here just to share their story. A good origin story, I think every entrepreneur loves to tell. And, some of us have had the benefit of time from when we started the business to now. So I'm sure Paul's told the story, Laurie, as well, many, many times. I know I've told my origin story many times, and every time I think it gets a little bit better. Paul, why don't you kick us off and just tell us, how you started Ebates, and we can kind of go across.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. So as the dean mentioned, I was a Cal State Fullerton grad, class of 87, go Titans, where I did meet my wife. And even prior to that, I was kind of really enamored by technology. This is now the late 70s or so, and calculators were impressive, but I was lucky enough to get my hands on one of the first Apple II computers back in the day when I was in high school. And it was new and nobody ever had a home computer, and I really, really fell in love with it. So I always had kind of this competing imperatives about what my true love was. One was I really love technology. The other one was I love to argue. So it ultimately led me to law school at Cal State Fullerton, where I graduated with a degree in economics. And from law school afterwards, I became a prosecutor. And I was a prosecutor up in San Mateo County. And this is now in the middle of the 90s. So from early 90 until about 2000, I was a DA there. And I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with criminal law. That's what I teach at Cal State Fullerton. And it's always been one of my primary passions. But simultaneously, I was in the Silicon Valley, and this is literally as the internet was becoming commercialized. So as many of you know, the internet started out as a DARPA project by the Department of Defense. And in through the early 90s, no one had ever really heard about it. And in fact, no one had ever really heard much about email for that matter. And we started to see that really started to pick up, and being in the middle of the valley. So I'm in San Mateo County, which is San Francisco's just north of us. San Jose and Silicon Valley is just south of us. So we're on the peninsula, and it was kind of the center of technology. And at the DA's office, we started to get a lot of police agencies bringing in computer crime stuff. And no one in the office knew how to do it. And so I was kind of the go-to guy and started a high-tech prosecution unit there. Really just loved engaging both technology and crime. They were two things I really loved. But as the decade wore on and we started to get into 96, 97, I had another friend of mine at the DA's office, Alessandro Isolani, and we were both kind of computer nerds, but we were also both early entrepreneurs. I did my first product when I was at Cal State Fullerton, which was a little device to hook up to the Apple computers so you could put the game sound through your stereo. You couldn't do it back in the day. It was a little small speaker. So I loved the idea of starting something from nothing and seeing what I could do with it. And so Alessandro and I started, talking to each other and said, hey, look, why don't we see if we can come up with something? Let's see if we can come up with some idea. And we had a couple of, and I would suggest this to anyone starting a company, is to start to put some constraints around it. What is it that you want to do? What's the market that you want to pursue? And then how should it kind of generally look and feel? And so we basically said, all right, the first thing we want to do is we want to go from a business to consumer market, because that we figured was the largest market, and online shopping. And this is now 97 or so, 98. And we hit on the idea of this online rebating idea, which is what Ebates was. In a nutshell, we took a commission that a store would give us if one of our users purchased a product from them, and we gave that back to the user as a rebate. And so we came up with this basic idea, decided it had to be easy enough for our moms to use, and that's how we literally started on the phone. That literally for, I'd say, 3 months, on the phone every night after work. If we weren't in trial, we were on the phone talking about what is it that we can do and how can we come up. And that was the basis of the idea and how we went from there.
Awesome. Okay, great. That's perfect stopping spot there. And we'll come back to kind of what happens next in a little bit, but I want to give Laurie a chance to sort of share her origin story as well. So Laurie, if you'd be so kind.
Sure. So I've learned that there's 3 types of entrepreneurial startups. The first is sort of like Paul's or Jeff Bezos, where you've got this amazing idea, you research it, if you're Jeff Bezos, you hire a great team around you, including still Walmart's operations team, and you plan and plan and plan, and you expect the return, and you expect when you'll get that return, etc. The second type is someone who works for someone, and at some point in their career goes, I can do this better, smarter, faster. And you leave that company and probably take with them some of their intellectual property, some of their team members, etc. Or there's a third type, which is me, who you just jump into something without a clue. So that'd be me. I was actually pre-med at UCI and then decided that wasn't going to work. And then I transferred to Cal State Fullerton and majored in political science, which is still, I really should be a United States Senator. That's my real dream. So I had a friend, and after college, I had one job for a year working in the Garden Grove Police Department using my political science degree. And I had a friend who was a fireman, actually, who had they all second jobs, this was this late 70s when plants were all the rage for the first time. Now they're all the rage for the second time. Putting plants in offices, hospitals, hotels, and then taking care of them. A silly little business. So he and I started this thing together, and I kept thinking I need to go back and get an MBA or go do something, which I never did. And that beginning business of putting plants in buildings and then hiring people to maintain them turned into where we are today, with still doing that base business. And with, I think interesting, I have a business partner of 35 years. And we're still basically doing the same business. And if you think about that alone, all the technology, all the things that change in this world, we're still kind of doing our original business, plus a lot of other things, which I can get into later. And it's still a really profitable business. And now plants are back. The second time, all the millennials want plants everywhere. And gardening and all of that, home improvement became the thing during the shutdown. We also have 3 very large home and garden stores in Los Angeles, and our sales are off the charts because of the circumstances we're in. But that's how I started, just as a crazy whim, like, oh, that looks fun. I'm still doing it. So anyway, I'll discuss more later as we get into this.
I love it. It's a great story. Very cool. And Bryan, your story isn't that long ago and you're sort of in it right now, but would love to hear kind of how you decided that this was a business and you should go for it.
Yeah, so I've always had a passion for public safety, whether that's police, fire, medical services, anything that goes lights and sirens, I have always been fascinated by. And when I was a teenager, I became a police explorer, which was basically a volunteer position for the sheriff's department, where I'd go on ride-alongs, basically be a junior deputy as a 15, 16-year-old. And so I'd go on these ride-alongs, and something that's in a police car, every police car, is a laptop, and it allows them to see their calls for service, where their other officers are, all the information about their shift. And half the time I would get in the patrol cars, the computer just wouldn't work. It wasn't the computer that wasn't working, it was the software. All this software would crash constantly. And it was just kind of expected by these deputies that, oh yeah, it just isn't going to work today. So they'd close the laptop, and that vital piece of information just wasn't available to them, putting them at huge, huge risk. And I've always also been interested in computers. So I wanted to play on the computer the whole time, but it didn't work, so I couldn't. So I saw that and I thought, well, maybe this is just a weird thing at this one, this one sheriff's department. And so at the same time in high school, I was playing a video game, pretending to be a police officer with a bunch of other teenagers. And I created a fake dispatch system for this video game that was basically very similar to what the actual police officers and firefighters and dispatchers used. So I created this website and just kind of had that for fun, just so I could use it. And as time went on, we got I think it's over 100,000 users on it now. And one day I was looking through the users on it, and I saw, man, there's real like police departments signing up for this. This is real tow truck companies. There's real agencies, real life people that are using this software. And it hit me and I realized this issue of public safety software being outdated, expensive, hard to use was extremely widespread. At the same time, when I graduated high school, I became an EMT, and I thought, well, maybe this will be better. It's an ambulance, we'll have cool technology. Same thing. Computer systems crash all the time. I started in dispatch in there, and the same thing. A few times a week, all the computers would go down, and we'd just be shooting in the dark as to who would get what ambulance when they call 911. So, it blew my mind. And so that's when I took that idea of this fake version for video games and put in my knowledge that I'd gained from being in public safety for almost 10 years and created this real system called 10-8 Systems. And, it's cloud-based, so which is something that public safety never knew. Every police departments are stuck in 10 years ago, most of them, with their technology. So we were kind of able to bring them modern technology and show them that the technology available to consumers can also be available to public safety. And so far we've ran over 250,000 emergency calls on our system, and it's grown every day.
Very cool. Congrats. That's awesome. So I'll just give my story real quick. So to Laura's point, I was part of a group that started a company called QuickBridge in 2011. It happened to be a guy that I was working for at the time who wanted to partner with another guy, and they were very entrepreneurial and they needed somebody that would like actually do the work. And so I was that guy that would do the work. And the business took off. We didn't realize at the time, but providing small businesses loans starting in 2011 was a very good time to start doing that business. And our company took off. We were the 5th fastest growing company in the United States in the 2015 Inc. 5000. I think our growth rate from 11 to 15 was like 26,000% or something crazy like that. And then, started going the other way. It's hard to keep the growth rate like that for a whole host of reasons, not that we need to get into right now. And then we actually sold the business in 2018 to a strategic in our space. So another company in our industry bought us. I stayed on as president of the company. So we went through an acquisition. Everything was going fine. I was not enjoying myself as much under the parent company as I had been without the parent company. And so I started to think about what, chapter 2 might look like for me and, to actually go out on my own. And when the pandemic hit, it seemed like the perfect time to do that. So I actually exited my role in May of 2020 and started Good Funding, which is my new company, in June 2020. In sort of the early stages of shutdowns and everything else. So this new business is new. It is exciting, but that's my origin story. So a couple of things that I'd love to hit on from what you guys were talking about. So Paul and Laura, you guys both mentioned a partner. Bryan, I know you've got, some support from family in terms of help, but mostly just sort of out on your own. So Paul, Laura, I'd just sort of love to get your perspective. I know it wasn't necessarily by design for both of you, but having chosen to go down that path and have a partner for those that are watching this right now, what are your thoughts around partnership and kind of getting started that way, as opposed to just solely on your own?
Go ahead, Laura. You can take it first.
Sure. That's a really interesting question. And I'm a member of a Women Presidents Group, which is a WPO, it's like YPO. And the conversations that stem from partnerships that are good and partnerships that go bad, it can fill volumes, and it swings both ways. In my case, I started my plant company where we just did plants, and I met someone else doing the same thing. We merged our companies together in 1986, and we are still partners. And it's been interesting. And after all these years, we finally realized what my strengths and weaknesses are and what his are. And as it turns out, we're a really good fit. At the baseline, we share the same core values, which is huge. So that would be really, it's like any relationship. If one person wants to break all the rules and be a lie and a cheat, and the other person wants to be super ethical, that's a problem. And if you're a lie and a cheat and you find another partner just like that, great. But it does help that you share the same values, and that has really sustained us over years of arguments, because he's a creative, I'm the financial business management, and he wants to spend money, I don't. And after all these years, we've learned to navigate that. But again, at the fundamental level, we've always agreed our employees need health insurance. We've had so many employees out sick with COVID. We don't care what the law is. We just pay them. We just feel it's the right thing to do. There's no dispute. Let's just pay them for as long as they're sick, because that's our core value. So I would just say, you know, we've done a lot of personality testing in our company also. And if you get two people that are the same also in skill set, you got a blind spot back here, and neither one of you see it. So if you can find someone who has skills that you don't have, and again, have the same, are aligned with values, great. But finding that is difficult, and you choose wisely is what I would end with.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on that, Laurie's absolutely right. I mean, so much of it has to do with the personal relationship. Sandro and I are, to this day, is like my brother. And, you know, at the time we knew each other okay. I mean, we're not really like close friends. We were friends at the office. We knew each other. We knew our both backgrounds. But we kind of clicked. And I think it's important to find somebody with complementary skills. I absolutely agree with that. With our case, I don't know if we both, you know, we're both trial lawyers, which, you know, put two trial lawyers in the same room together, and it's an interesting experience. But, you know, and there were times we would, you know, knock down, drag out fights with each other, but we were also very emotionally honest with each other. I think Laurie's right. You got to be honest with each other. And if you're going to get on each other's nerves at times, it's just going to happen. You know, when you're working close together and you're in a tremendous pressure situation, and you both have to be mature enough to say, hey, look, dude, it was me. I'm sorry, I was being a dick, or whatever it was. And you have to get past that. And we did. It was great. But I think, though, to expand a little bit, partnership isn't just about the person you start the business with. And I think that especially for entrepreneurs, and I think one of the questions I get most often, because we were a venture funded company. So Sandra and I started off with, we're like, okay, we're going to put our money into this. This is going to take literally probably millions to do it to do it the right way, because it's going to be a lot of marketing, a lot of things like that. And we're like, no, let's see if we can actually get some venture money, which we knew the ups and the downs of it. But on the issue of partnership with these people, these were firms that we ended up being in business with. I mean, Ebates, we launched in 1999 and then sold in November 2014, which for a .com is like ridiculous how long that is. It was a 15-year run. We were literally, until we got bought by Rakuten, was an internet 1.0 company. Google wasn't around, Facebook wasn't around, none of these companies were around. Amazon was there, and then pets.com, and we all know what happened to them. So getting an investor that is also like a partner, huge. Don't just take money for the sake of taking money. What I did find, and things that I didn't know, and I know I'm going a little bit far afield from the partnership, but I think the undercurrent is the same. When you're dealing with a partner like Laurie and I did, which is you're starting the business early on, you have to have somebody who's going to be there in tough times and in good times. Like she said, it's like a marriage. You know, you're going to get angry with each other. You're not going to get angry with each other. All those type of things you're going to go through in a regular relationship. Same thing with an investor. And we were so fortunate to have three firms that were experts in the field, had been in the Silicon Valley for a long time, and also understood that. And so it really felt like so collaborative. And I can't stress enough to people that are going to be looking for investors, don't just take money for the sake of taking money, because it will make your life miserable if you have the wrong people involved. So I think in that way, it's very similar.
Yeah, it's a
Quick, Ben?
yeah. Brian, please jump in. Yeah.
So actually, I did start this with my brother. So I know you said Sandro is like a brother. I actually am with my brother. So I'm very much a technical guy. I'm a public safety guy, but I'm not a sales guy at all. My brother before this was working in Silicon Valley, and then came down to work with me and quit his job there to run 10A Systems full time with me. And it was, like you guys said, it was a perfect matching because I don't do sales. I didn't know much about accounting starting this, so it was a perfect way to mix his business school education with my computer science education and public safety knowledge. And same thing, it was a perfect way to complement what each of us was missing to create a team.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I have a partner. So one of the partners from QuickBridge, him and I, are doing good funding together. So I know the benefit of a good partner, and he's much more the sales guy, out and about. He loves that stuff, and I'm happy to handle all the things back at the ranch, so to
And
speak.
plus, when things go bad, it's really, really nice to have somebody to lean on. And
Yeah.
if you're going to be starting a company, for people that are listening to this or have done it before doing another one, there are going to be horrible times. And having somebody that you can go cry to, who is at the same level that you are, who gets it, who understands it, boy, at least for me, I wear my heart on my sleeve, so it's probably more important for me. But it was great. That's a godsend.
All right, so a couple of things we could go on from here. Obviously, I want to talk about horrible times, cyclical nature of business in general, and Paul and Laurie, you guys have awesome stories there. And Brian, you've already kind of dealt with your own cycle, I'm sure, selling to government agencies in the height of a pandemic. But before we go to there, this is interesting. Brian, you talked about now working with your brother. Laurie, Morteza mentioned that your daughter is now involved in the business. Paul, I know you're like working with your son on a business. I'd love to hear about sort of the dynamic of family business, and for those that are here that are either thinking about going into the family business or going into business with a sibling or anything else. So, Brian, why don't you, since it's happening right now live for you, why don't you kind of share with the group?
Can I just ask before you do that,
Paul,
Brian, can I just ask a procedural question? That somebody, I got something, and I'm new to the chat. I'm horrible with chat. Somebody asked a question.
Oh yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, sorry. Why don't we answer it live? So the question is, how to identify the correct investor for your business venture? Paul, you kind of touched on that a little bit. Do you want to go a little deeper?
Well, there's no easy answer for that. I really think a lot of it is a gut feeling. Obviously, you want to get the best case scenario is you have somebody who's been in the business that you're going to be in, or at least the general market that you're going to be in. So they understand the cyclical nature of it. They understand the problems that are going to come up. The worst thing you want is an investor that is going to just give you the money and then it's going to be like, okay, when am I getting my return back? What's the problem here? What's your exit strategy? All along, you want an investor that your goals are aligned. So make sure that when you do sit down with somebody, that you're very honest, and both of you should be honest about it. It's like, look, I don't want to sell my company for 5 to 10, 8 years, whatever it is. Or, hey, I'm looking to flip it quickly. Whatever it may be honest about it and find somebody whose goals totally align with yours. And that will make it easier in the long run. And of course, check references and stuff like that. But my best advice is just to be honest about what you want out of the business, what you're looking for long term and in the medium term, and make sure that their goals absolutely match yours.
Laurie, did you guys have outside investor money in the business? Do you have experience?
No, we have had, my business partner comes from a wealthy family. So we've gone to the bank of his family every now and then when we need to capitalization in the past. And that comes with a lot of stuff and it's a nice source of capital, but I would, for this discussion, I'm all for getting venture money. And if we grow any further, we would consider that as well. And Paul's actually in anything, just being honest up front, and be self-aware, where we're talking about, I know I'm good at X, Y, and Z, and I'm terrible at A and B. So knowing that in any relationship, in any business, it makes you a step ahead. No one can do everything. I've learned this. Nobody has all the skills to do everything. And Paul is right with the venture partner. Depending how involved they want to be, you just be straight up honest and see where it goes.
Bryan, have you gotten in the process of raising any money yet?
We're trying to hold off as long as we can. Luckily, the beauty of a software-based business or software as a service business is we pretty much made money from day one. When our overhead extremely low, so we're trying to keep this going bootstrap this as long as we can, and maybe one day take on money. But yeah,
Paul, isn't that backwards?
Well,
Modern day SaaS companies, are you supposed to lose a bunch of money at first and then?
Yeah, right. Isn't that the way it's supposed to go? Yeah.
As soon as you make money, they can value you. Yeah.
You have plenty of time to lose money.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, I think Bryan's right. And I've met with Bryan, his brother, who's also a great guy. And like, I love Bryan. These are smart guys. And as I told them on this, it's like, yeah, as long as you can, hold out, because it's going to be a couple of things. One is you're going to learn more about your business. So you're going to make yourself more attractive. You are going to have more traction. So you'll be able to get a better valuation, which will enable you to keep a larger percentage of your company. And you'll also know what to do with the money. One of the worst things you could do is get dumped a bunch of money and now you're like, oh, what the hell do we do with it? It sounds like a high order problem, but it can be a real problem. So I applaud them. I think that if you can, do the best you can to hold out, but also don't be afraid to do it. And don't be afraid to give up equity. I gave up a ton of equity, a lot of equity to get the money that we got ultimately all around. But my feeling was a small piece of something huge is better than a huge piece of something small. And, it worked out. I got lucky that way. But yeah, hats off to Bryan and his brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree, and it's awesome that you guys are able to, to do that, to bootstrap it that way. In our business, it takes money. Our product is money, so we're constantly thinking about that. We ran a process, a very formal process. Hired investment bankers, and we're in the midst of diligence right now. And fortunately, have been through this process before, so I had the benefit of experience and knowing exactly what we were looking for this go around. But that's another thing I would recommend is depending on the size of the raise, running a process can be very helpful. And then, also for Bryan, the further you get along into your career and the company itself, the more people you're going to meet, the more people you meet, the better your network becomes, the better our network becomes, the more opportunity you have to get to know these folks that are on the other side of the table that may have an interest in investing in you. And, that served me well.
And don't undersell yourself. Don't undersell yourself. Don't feel like, oh my God, they're doing me a favor even meeting with me. No, that's not true. Yeah. The easy part is people with money. I hate to say that, but it's really true. There's a ton of people out there with capital. Yeah. The truth of the matter is the hard part is the entrepreneur and having the vision and having the dedication and having the work ethic, all those type of things. If you're that person, you're in the small percentage and they're looking for you. So you have to kind of have that attitude when you go in of, you're obviously deferential, you're respectful, all those type of things, but don't think people are doing you a favor. You're doing them a favor. You're bringing them an opportunity. And that's kind of how you should, I think, is fair to look at.
As a quick plug for Cal State Fullerton too, my favorite thing is you go into these meetings and you sit down with these dudes and they all have like full-blown Ivy League educations. And it's like they lead with that. And you're like, oh man, I went to Cal State Fullerton and you guys are over here begging me for my business. It's the best. That's
a great, I love to hear you say that because I felt that same way too, right? I mean, even in law school, it's like everybody was from Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, Yale. And I'm like, I went to Cal State Fullerton, right? And it's like, everything worked out fine. It doesn't matter. It's about you. It has nothing to do with the institution. I got a great education there. Cal State's a great school now. And it's about the person, not the institution. And you should never forget that as an entrepreneur. Don't feel intimidated by that. That's garbage.
All right,
I would totally agree. I've always said there's way more money chasing talent than talent chasing money. And as an entrepreneur, remember that.
That's such a great point, especially nowadays where there's like, all these funds and everything else that are raising money from all these people and they're literally their job is to deploy the capital. And you know, it's hard to deploy that capital. Absolutely.
And it's fun when you end up hiring all the people from Harvard, Yale, Stanford. It's hilarious.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Very cool. All right. So we got another question from the audience. At what point did you feel comfortable going with your idea, business, and branching off? So, Laurie, Paul, you guys touched on this a little bit in your origin story. Bryan, you as well. But Laurie, if you don't mind leading us off, just in terms of like, at what point did the two of you know that, okay, I'm all in, right? Like whatever other plans I had or anything else, it's done. This is my job, and this is, we're going for it.
Right. Pretty early on. Pretty early on, I realized that I didn't know this, I wasn't born into this, but I realized I am an entrepreneur. I love this. I love the risk. I'm a pretty high threshold for pain and torture, and I didn't mind staying up all night working. And so it was pretty clear from the beginning. And now it's been so many years of this that I know and I'm even in the right industry. And now people chase after us, looking for us to open more and more. We're always being approached to open more stores because they get what we do. So I think, pretty soon on, if you're all of you, or a lot of you probably have jobs that you're working and it's working for someone else. And I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, I could do this better, smarter. I could, or do something completely different. And if you're already thinking of the next step, you should move on and think of what you could be doing and not stay where you are, because that's a waste of talent. If you've got something there, go for it. Awesome.
Paul, Bryan, any additional thoughts on at what point, Paul, you felt like Ebates was, this is the thing, like this is a company, we need to hire people and do stuff? And
well, so a little bit different than the way we do it, right? Because we came up with the idea, I think finally hit on it. In fact, you talk about origin story. I was driving home with my wife and my then almost newborn son, and in the car from NorCal to SoCal for Christmas. And the idea hit me, and I got in at 1 o'clock in my mom's, and I called Sandro. I said, dude, I think this is the one. And we tweaked it, and it was. But as far as we pretty much had to do it quickly. One of the things with the investors was, look, you don't have you're a first mover advantage, is what they called what we were doing at the time, right? Because we were not a huge technology play. It wasn't like I had the Google search algorithm, something that would really make a barrier to entry, is what they call them in that business. It was a very low barrier to entry for what we wanted to do. It was just a very new idea and a unique concept. And so we had to hit the ground fast, and that meant ramping up fast. So we started hiring almost immediately. Sandra and I did an outside engineering firm because we're not really coders. I mean, I dabbled in some coding, but I'm not a guy like Bryan. And so we had to hire an outside firm to do it. We oversaw that, but once we got it going, then I'm getting, okay, we need a VP of marketing, I need a VP of engineering, which was the hardest.
So Paul, let me just ask a clarifying question there. So, because this is one of the things I always want to know. Did you start with the management team and sort of fill in the gaps? Did you start with, okay. Yeah. Okay. And then you let them pick their teams? Is that?
Pretty much. Yeah, absolutely. And that was a thing that we relied a lot on the investors. So when we were doing a search, for instance, for a VP of Ops, is like you'd sit at the boardroom with 3 venture guys and gals, and they're all like, oh, hey, I had that one guy who was a Yahoo, and now he's over at, here, and why don't I call him? I think he's looking for a position. That was where these guys were so helpful. And so we would fill out our management team that way. And then it was like, okay, you guys go hire people. I trust you. Go ahead. You got to trust your people. And it was like, you fill in your team. That's how we did it.
Awesome. Cool. Mr. John Jackson has a question for us, and since JJ's the
we got to answer JJ's question.
We got to ask this question. So, and it's a good question. It's about board of advisors, or an advisory board with the company. Did you have one? Do you have one? If so, was it helpful? Your thoughts on that. I'll ask Bryan first. Bryan, have you thought about a board of advisors? Is that something that's crossed your mind yet at this point?
So one of the benefits of participating in the startup competition was that since I won it, I got free access to the Cal State Fullerton startup incubator program. So it was really nice that as JJ works well.
Wow, what a question. Lucky guess. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we happily signed up for the incubator program and got paired with a mentor. And it was a really great way to be paired with seasoned veterans in entrepreneurship and be able to bounce ideas off them and get advice from JJ to Travis to our mentor. Like it was all, it was a great way to fill in gaps that my brother and I didn't have. Neither of us had really started a business before, like a big real business like this. And so it was, you know, it was a very good way to find people with a bunch of different perspectives and be able to bounce ideas off them and create a little bit of make us think in ways we wouldn't have before.
Very cool. Laurie, do you guys have a board of advisors?
We have had in the past, and right now we're working with some consultants that are almost like a board, retail and scaling business, scaling business consultants. That sounds lame, but I would agree.
It always does when you're talking about the consultants to somebody else. You're like, I swear it's helping, but like it's going to sound really lame. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would just say that for us, we're making it up as we go along. There is no playbook for what we've done, what we're doing, what we want to do. And it always helps to have other people that have done something similar or have expertise you don't have. The person we're using is a super high level retail consultant, and she's brought some stuff to the table about inventory management that we knew we needed it, but not a clue, so it does, like Bryan said, it fills in the gaps and it allows you to scale much quicker, because as an entrepreneur, you think you're going to figure it out yourself. I know if any of you have read the E-Myth book, when you all start out, although you guys are way smarter than that, but right. In John's classes many times, I've said this, when you start out doing it, you can do everything. But if you want to go faster, you find people that can help you do it and fill in the gaps and teach you the things you don't know. I know, we all know one of the stories about Steve Jobs when he decided to go retail. He set up a warehouse in wherever he is in Santa Clara, and for 2 years, had this warehouse that was a mock store, and he didn't know anything about retail either. And he tried to figure out what's the store going to look like and how's it going to be laid out, and that's how you do it. He brought lots of people in to tell him because he didn't know. So that's what a board of directors, advisory boards, consultants, they can help you scale quicker and faster and teach you things that you have no idea exist.
And Paul, for you, I'm assuming the venture fund was, part of that process.
Yeah, we had, obviously the board members from the venture firms were on there and they were incredibly helpful. But we also did over the years try to bring in some advisory board. I think it was a mixed bag. Consulting, I think, is one of the biggest scams on the planet Earth. How I did not start a consulting firm and make a fortune is beyond me. Because in my experience, I wasn't hearing things that were like, yeah, okay, I get that. That's obvious. Tell me something I don't know. So I don't know. It was a mixed bag. I think Laurie's absolutely right, though. I think that it can help with scalability. It can help fill in your blind spots. I think we might have just been fortunate that we had just pretty much that covered. So, anybody else we brought in just wasn't all that useful for us.
Yeah, sometimes if you have a really strong management team, it can be redundant or, counter to, some of the better work that you're doing, because the board of advisors feels as though they need to, serve a purpose that they may not need to do. So yeah, it's no silver bullet. It's not always perfect in all situations. Another question we had from the group, and Laurie, this was directed towards you and something I wanted to ask anyways, but as a female entrepreneur, especially in the late 70s, right? So the question specifically was, a mentor once told me that women who have small businesses in a male-dominated industry are more likely than men to have their expertise questioned. Does that resonate with you? But I just, more general, love for you to share your experience as a female founder and how you think about that in today's world. And, do you think back like, wow, this was really special that, I started this business and I'm an inspiration to a lot of other people.
Interesting question. And certainly in the more recent years with the Me Too and all that, I really pondered this a lot. I'm not in a male dominated industry per se, you know, retail and we're lifestyle, we're home and garden, is sort of more of a female. You know, if I was selling owned automotive dealerships, I think that would be different. I would have been the only woman in the room. I never thought there was a bias, so I just went along that there wasn't. And it really wasn't until, again, this whole Me Too a few years ago, where I thought, you know, I got away with a lot of stuff because I was a woman, and I got, and probably some things were denied me and I didn't recognize it was because I was a woman. So it's a mixed bag. And I guess you use what you have. It sounds terrible. You got to use you got to use the assets you got. And I made it work for me. And I never really looked at it as, you know, I'm in a women presidents group. And so I learned this also. The percentage of women, we have a $20 million a year business now, which, you know, is nothing, but for it's taken a long time to get to that for us. The percentage of women running that size of a company nationwide is probably pretty small. You know, I wish we were $100 million business at this point. We should be, but it's a different, you know, it's the work we do. It's super important that we control what we do. We never want to lose control of our prettiness. So anyway, I am very aware that it is difficult for women. I used to think it's gotten better. I don't know that it has anymore. I'm not sure how I land on that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't just go for it. And if you're getting, as women, just pretend it's a level playing field, and that works better. Never play the victim ever. That's a bad role ever. So just I'm equal, and that case closed. Move on.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. All right, so we I'd put a pin on the family business part of this, but I do want to go back to that. You know, Bryan, so if you'd be so kind, just sort of share your experience getting this started with your brother, thoughts around other people that, you know, are thinking about starting a business or getting involved in a family business, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, you know, there's a really amazing thing about having your brother as your business partner is you can piss off friends and they can run away and say, I'm not friends with you anymore. He can't not be my brother anymore. So anytime I piss him off, I know he's got to come back to our family. Well, at least that's what I hope. You know, it's a really nice thing that we're able to. Another cool thing is a lot of businesses are founded by siblings and by brothers and family members. And that has gotten us into a lot of places when it comes to, we were just meeting with somebody that we were going to do a strategic partnership with. And we didn't even tell them we were brothers at first. And they said, oh, how do you guys know each other? And they're like, well, we're brothers. And they said, oh, no way. So are all of us. And it just like immediately spun this, or like, you know, created this beautiful relationship with this group, because you know, there's something special about being a family business. And you know, we're able to work together, and I can yell at him more than I probably would a business partner, and he can yell at me more than he probably could a business partner, because, you know, underneath all of it all, we're still brothers. We still love each other. And, you know, we're able to spend day in and day out working on stuff. And, you know, same thing with, it's beautiful that to have super supportive parents, because they can come in and they've helped us with a bunch of things. You know, I really think it's a nice thing to have your family by your side supporting you, because they're going to love you and support you no matter what mistakes you make in the business, no matter what you do, like they're still going to love you and support you through everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, as a father of two young boys, for them to sometime in the future go into business together would be super cool. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Laurie, why don't you kind of share about, you know, if your daughter's involved in the business now, was that a goal of yours? Is it, you know, how's it going?
That interesting evolution. So my daughter went to UCI in political science also, and was planning to go to law school, and then decided to move up to Napa and pursue like a food and wine thing, where she got a lot of corporate experience in events and food and wine. And we also do that. Our third store in the arts district in downtown is a 2-acre thing with a huge event thing. So she decided to come work for us about 3 years ago. And it was never in her life plan. It was to do this, but it's working out well. She's gonna get the MBA. I never did. We got her ready for that. And she just brings in, she's grown up in the business, and she brings another level of professionalism, management skills. She's worked for luxury hotel brands in Napa Valley, and we're a luxury brand. She's identified that's what we are. Yeah, we are. Our stuff's expensive. So it's been a process, but it is, after 3 years of this, she's really making an impact. And my business partner and I are both in our 60s, and we don't have an exit strategy. We want to work till we drop dead because we love it, and we get to travel and buy all over the world, buy nice things for the stores. She's my exit strategy now. So it really has worked, but it wasn't like everything else we do. It's never by design. It just all kind of starts to fall into place. And then I actually realized there's more design subconsciously maybe than I'm aware of. But she is a great asset, and there's a lot higher trust level. Usually in family businesses, you can trust your own family in most cases, although we've all heard some horror stories about siblings who do terrible things to each other. But in general, it's a good thing, and I think she's going to enjoy running the company someday, and she definitely has the skills for it.
Very cool. That's awesome. Okay, so you touched a little bit on exits, and Paul, I want to come to you. Obviously, having a very successful exit of Ebates, but when you started the business, right, and you have this partner, was that something that had been discussed? Did you guys define?
Yeah. I mean,
we're like, we're going to sell this thing for $1 billion.
As soon as possible, for as much money as humanly possible. Yeah. I mean, that was literally the conversation, because I think part of it for Sandra and I was second careers, right? So both of us, I'd been a prosecutor at that point for about 7-8 years, and just loved being a DA. I mean, I love being in trial. I mean, that's why I love criminal law. That's why I teach it now at Cal State Fullerton. I love it. So when we went into this, it was like, I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for my ego. I already had the ego job. I'm doing this for one reason only, and that's to make money. And so we were both aligned with that. Like, we felt like we're going to try to catch lightning in a bottle here, and see if we can do it. Because the odds of it happening twice, again, so much of it, and I know we'll talk a little bit about the bad times. It was such a unique period, literally as seismic as the Industrial Revolution. So here we were, I'm not being hyperbolic, we were at the point which I think is an analog to the Industrial Revolution, which was the growth and explosion of the commercialized internet. And so we saw that as a once in a generation opportunity. And our view the entire time was, how can we scale this quickly, and how can we get out of it quickly? And we go back to the issue you're talking about with your investors. I was the pitch person. I was the first CEO of Ebates, and I was totally honest with them when we were pitching it. I said, look, the second you find somebody better than me at doing this job, I'll step aside. I'll sweep up I don't care. As long as I have my stock, what do I care? I'm not doing this for my ego. And they pulled me aside afterwards, years later, and one of the guys said, we got to tell you, that was kind of refreshing. We never hear that, because we always have to deal with, how do we deal with the founders? How do we get rid of the founders? What are they going to do? And it was like, not the issue. So for us, it was just a straight greed is, kind of a Gordon Gekko type thing, I think.
I have a friend who's had some really successful exits, and that's literally his pitch. Like, somebody else can do this way better than me. Look, I'm here. You should give me money and force me to leave, and somebody else will do this way better. And it's happened like 3 times, and each time they believe him. Now he doesn't have to work, and here the rest of us are like, slaving away. It's crazy. Yeah,
that's funny.
It's funny. Laurie, how about for you with you and your partner? I mean, obviously you just talked about your daughter, but just an overall, like, defining success. Is that something you guys try to do early on together, or is it, obviously I'm assuming evolved over time, but would love to hear your thoughts around that.
We're the opposite of, let's package this up and sell it as quickly as possible, make as much money. And I love that concept. I wish I had that another business that did that. But it's just a lifestyle brand we've created. And we love the work. It's ego, you know, oh, your stores are so beautiful. Everybody in LA knows your stores are beautiful, beautiful. We thrive on that. But also there's got to be a business background to it. And that part came first, the beauty and oh, you guys are amazing. And yeah, we can barely make payroll. So that it took years to catch the back of house up to the front of the house. And with my daughter's help, we've done that, and the retail consultant. So we enjoy it. It's every day it's a puzzle to me. We employ a lot of people. We have 160 people, which is a lot of people for a company that size. It's a puzzle. We've got a really good management team in place now. And to get everybody in the right seat and watch this all happen. I love every piece of it. And we were in Mexico last week on a buying trip, sourcing product that we're going to have things designed for us. We're going to Texas on Thursday for a big antique fair we go every year. We're going to Italy, hopefully. And so don't feel sorry for me. This business affords us that opportunity. We've been on buying trips in Marrakesh. So it's super cool. So I don't ever want to stop as long as the numbers make sense and I can keep doing this, I'll keep doing it. And, you know, I'll let other people do the heavy lifting as time goes by, and, you know, just send me money every month. I'm good.
Hey, Ben, let me just make one quick clarifying point on what I was saying, is that, so if you put it in the terms of how you define success, and I truly believe this, and I've told my kids this since they were little enough to understand it, I define success not monetarily. That worked out really well. Ebates was just, you know, a lightning strike. The reality is, find something you love, like Laurie has, right? If you find that career that you like, I tell them, it's like, as long as you can feed yourself, clothe yourself, and house yourself, I don't care what you do, right? As long as you love it, you're going to be good at it, and you'll be able to do it till you die, because that's the important part. Is just that's how you measure success. If your company is something you love doing, and because you're living your life, it's not just the end goal. It's the day-to-day of going through everything. That is success. If you can do it like Laurie has done it, that's a huge success. Whether, even though I think 20 million a year is a huge success in it itself, but versus 100 or a billion doesn't matter. Because it's that every day you're in it and you love it. That's all that matters. I mean, it sounds relatively trite, but I can't tell you how true it is.
No, they're both true. I wish I would have sold my company for you. Well, actually, I wish I would have sold another company for what you did. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Through this whole COVID, we were able to stay open, and it gave us such purpose that we're able to keep our staff employed. That if someone got sick, we could afford to pay them to stay home and get well. I got a tremendous sense of satisfaction this past year, keeping the company going and keeping my staff employed and keeping them healthy and taking care of them. I feel like a mother of 160 people. Really, that is a huge accomplishment. Yeah.
Bryan, have you and your brother talked about this? Like how you guys define success? If somebody were to wave a big check in front of you guys, if both of you would say yes, or, one says yes, one says no.
It's funny, when I first started, this is my baby, this is something I'm so passionate about. I still am. I was like, there's no way I'm ever selling this business. This is mine. Nobody's touching this. I'm going to do this till the day I die. And as I've seen over the last couple years that we've been running this, my baby can be like a real baby, very stressful at times. And, it's something that I think success is really defined. I mean, obviously there's success in money and making money and selling it big, but there's a lot of success for me in hearing the success stories of our customers. One of the biggest things was we were used during Hurricane Dorian, and they were using it to dispatch the Coast Guard and FEMA teams and search and rescue to go find people that were stranded. And I was sitting there in class listening to my professor lecture and stressing because my system was managing the rescue response in Hurricane Dorian. And I was sitting there, and it was, I'll always remember the rest of my life watching my computer and watching it play out in real time as calls were going out, and they're using my system to locate people trapped in, broken down houses. Cool. And buildings fall down. There was like a church that 300 people were trapped in, and they used my system to help find them and get them. And, I think that stuff like that brings me such greater joy than money ever could. Money obviously would make me very happy, but it brought me a lot of joy to just see that my system was actually helping people and doing what I designed it to do. It's that I think really defines success. If this all fails and falls apart tomorrow, and I still would say we have been completely successful because we've done what I set out to do, which is revolutionize public safety and help save lives with software.
That honestly, to all the students watching, what you just said is priceless. That's really why you do this. It's the greater good. If you bringing something, you're bringing public safety. We've been told we bring beauty. We create beauty. And I thought, wow, that's kind of, you break it down to that simple level. It's so cool. What you're doing is super important, and you should be so proud of yourself. And the feeling you're getting, again, to all you out there, that's the real deal. It's priceless.
We got you 6% back at Nordstrom. So there you go.
Yeah.
It's almost like saving lives.
Yeah, I'll just speak to the the other kind of the other side of the spectrum a little bit. So I didn't grow up with a passion for small business loans. It wasn't like a dream one day of lending money to players in the Midwest. But I will say that, look, I've been in the business of small business lending since I was a senior in college. I started back in 2003. So I've been at this for 18 years. I actually don't know how to do anything else. This is like literally sort of my life's work. And what's interesting about the concept of passion and having passion for something is, as I realized that I was good at this, right, identifying who to give money to and who not to, it became a passion, right? And so it became the thing that I knew I was strong at. And I have other ambitions in life that, quite frankly, for this business, I just want to make a bunch of money so that I can fulfill those other passions and hopefully make a better impact on, humanity in general. But at this stage in the game, I know that this is my best path, right? I'm not as smart as Bryan. I can't code, and I'm a little late to get it on the internet, and I know nothing about plants. So I can only do this. I had that, that moment before I started Good Funding. It was like, do I want to be in this industry anymore? Do I want to try to do something different? And you sort of had to have a heart to heart with myself of like, this is what I'm good at. This is the thing. And I'm really glad that I did. And I'm really enjoying it so far. It's very fulfilling. It's interesting, the concept of like passion and what you're passionate about. So my only point in saying this to those watching is that, you may not realize quite right now what your passion is, or maybe if you get into a field and you start to realize that you're good at that field, and then over time, it can lead to, like Laurie said, you start watching the people that are doing it, and you're like, I really like this, and I feel like I could do it better than how they're doing it. Maybe this is something I should entertain and go out on my own. So that was my experience, but very cool. Okay, so we're kind of running a little bit short on time. I did want to talk about just classic like entrepreneurship stories or anything else. I mean, I'm assuming you guys all have really neat stories of like just staring into the abyss of and so I think more than anything for everybody to hear, I mean, it's kind of easy to talk about on the other side of this thing, but maybe if you just sort of share either some learnings or things that kind of really helped. I mean, Paul, you went through a couple really crazy cycles, Laurie, you as well, Bryan. You've now had your last 12 months in business are unlike any other. So, if you guys could just kind of share some, something that sort of resonates or sticks out with you, that's like, was really a difficult time, and how you how you saw it to the other side.
Well, for us, it was the crash of the dot-com bubble in March of 2000. And that was the lights went out on the internet then, right? So up to that point, funding was never a problem for anybody. All these crazy companies were launching, and then the bubble burst in late March of 2000. Well, luckily we just closed a round of funding before that, but right after that, everything went dead, and we were literally staring into the abyss. And we were fortunate from the perspective that we had always been relatively frugal for a Silicon Valley startup. mainly I think because Sandra and I are both lawyers, so we're kind of conservative by nature. So we were not people with these gigantic headquarters that you were seeing with some of these other .com plays. That being said, I think the walk away from it was really, it sounds, again, it's going to sound trite, but it's like, don't give up. I mean, there might be some point where there's nothing you can do, right? You're just not, you're illiquid and you're dead. And it's just end of story. And you can have all the optimism in the world, you're not going to make it through. And that's what happened to, 80% of the companies around us at the time. We were fortunate enough to be able to switch that profitability switch quickly. That being said, it was scary. I mean, I was surrounded by people that I thought were smarter than me or more experienced than I was in that industry, and they were all going out of business. So it was frightening. And I can only say the thing that gets you through it is your partner, that you can both cry to each other in the middle of the night. For me, my wife was tremendously helpful and supportive. So family. But you're going to hit hard times, and you just have to say to yourself, look, so what? Even if it fails, that's okay. I'm going to get up and I'll do the next one. And there were so many people, the successful people that I've met over my years, entrepreneurs, failed multiple times before they actually hit on something. So for us, that's what it is. It's that, or for me, it's that perseverance. It's that don't give up. Stick to it. Keep fighting until you can't breathe anymore. Then start the next one. That's it.
Yeah, I just say, I love that. And, just on the theme of Cal State Fullerton, I just find in general, a lot of Cal State Fullerton business students have just great backgrounds and stories, and there's a lot of perseverance there typically.
Yeah, real life. And it just, for you guys listening, it's like, look, I know for myself, I didn't grow up with much. And so the concept of failing is, it's whatever, I couldn't be worse than what I grew up with, Right.
So it's what's to be scared of. So I think it's a great point, Paul, just to, just keep going. Laurie, why don't you kind of share, I'm sure there's been a few cycles, but
Oh yeah, just a few.
yeah. Some of anything that really stands out is oh my gosh, this is a scary moment. How do we get through this?
Well, I guess in 35 years, we've been through lots of business cycles, up, down, and sideways. And I was looking for one of my favorite Winston Churchill quotes in, politics. You never give up. And what you learn in the bad times, the resiliency that you can do this, you can charge forward. I've learned that me personally, as a company, we're so resilient, and I take pride in that I can survive anything at this point. And there are sometimes, when you're faced with, this clearly is not going to work, but you just have to stick in there and as a small company, change course. Sometimes it's like, this is not going to work. What can you do? But like I said, it's a puzzle. And when you can solve the puzzle, when all these pieces and parts are floating around, and we used to always do it this way. I always hate that. We've always done it this way. Well, we're not doing it this way anymore. My least favorite sayings, we've always done it this way. No. So when you can figure out the next step and figure out how to make it work, such joy comes from that. Like, damn, I'm smart. Yeah. So, and then this past year, interesting, but we're like the success story. We were considered essential. We got lucky. We were considered a nursery, which we're sort of not, but our sales were through the roof. We got a lot of PPP money because we have a lot of employees. We've used it exactly as it was intended. We were able to buy an ungodly amount of product and keep things moving. We're going to open our 4th store in Studio City, hopefully this year, this amazing project. And we just keep moving forward. And to be able to recognize when you're whipped and when you're not. Sometimes, like Paul said, you got to recognize we're whipped. We're not dead, but boy, do we got to, change really quickly. And that's what entrepreneurship is to me also. The ability to see it and go, okay, this isn't happening. Now we need to go over here and do it. That's the benefit of not being a large corporation. You can turn on a dime, and you should and you shall. Yeah. So
That's a great point. And the courage sometimes is tough in an organization of 160 people to tell everybody like, oh no, this is not how we're doing this anymore. You know, we're gonna, because there's internal politics and there's always things that
You think?
people really hang on. You know, you're like, I thought this is my company, but everybody's like really hanging on to, you know, whatever the policies and procedures are that they've grown accustomed to, and you know, it's interesting. So yeah, sometimes you just have to be able to go for it and go against, you know, your
Conventional wisdom.
yeah. Awesome. Bryan, kind of, you know, shed some light on, you know, this past year for you and what it's been like trying to sell to police departments and government agencies and in midst of, I'm assuming, tight budgets and stress around upgrades. And, you know, sort of how you think about the business and your optimism, or, you know, how you feel it right now and the rest of this year and beyond.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, real quick, that you say this is, you know, Laurie's saying, you know, we've always done it this way. That's not how we're doing it anymore. That's what my entire business is based on. We go to these police departments that take 911 calls, write them down on a piece of paper, and they say, well, we've always done it this way, and stick it into their 17, you know, filing cabinets. Or if they ever want to find something, it's impossible. And we tell them, just because you've done it that way doesn't mean it's the right way. So yeah, that's a big hurdle we have to work through a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, we've only been in business for, you know, 2 years, but we've definitely had our ups and downs. I mean, like Paul said, it's all about perseverance. At one point, at the very beginning, we had 2 customers. It was a snowplow company and a news media company. One of them got bought out and basically shut down, and so we lost them. And then the other one was not nearly enough to support the business. And that went on for a month or two. Like it got to the point where it's like, well, this is brand, maybe this wasn't as genius of an idea as I thought, you know? And we thought about giving up. And then one day an email comes in from a company that dispatches for a bunch of security companies saying, oh, we're interested in getting hearing about your system. This company at the time was dispatching for 300 calls a month. And they're like, do you think you can handle that? And we were like, yeah, I think we can make that work. And now they're dispatching 30,000 calls a month on our system. And you know, that really helped us grow and gain all this momentum and credibility in the field and all these different agencies. And it was just one of those things where it's like, you know, we really thought, well, I guess this is it. Like, it was fun while it lasted for, you know, a few months. But just that one strike of luck happened, and you know, it carried us to this day. But I mean, like you said, yeah, with COVID, police department budgets are small, and especially with everything that's happened over the last year with defund the police and everything, police department budgets are really small. They don't want to spend money on new technology. They don't want to focus on stuff like that. Luckily, one of the selling points of our system is that it saves you money. But even that it's the government. If they hear we're going to save you money, they doesn't register for some reason. So for this past year, we've kind of had to kind of pivot. Before this last year, we were focused so much going into the year on police departments, fire departments, public safety, you know, going to the government. And so we made this pivot towards security, because private security during COVID, all these businesses were shut down. They needed to secure their businesses. Security companies were raking in the cash. They were doing just fine, and they don't have those budgets and those the bureaucracy that a government agency has. So we spent this last year building up this customer base of security companies and other private industries, while we at the same time concurrently worked with preparing these public safety agencies, the government agencies, for when their budgets came around this year. So, you know, it was kind of one of those where we're pushing through to get to the end and still working on these security companies. And then once this year hit, I mean, all of a sudden these budgets started coming through, and things have gone a lot better this year than we thought they were going to. So, you know, it's perseverance, just like Paul said. It's pushing through and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel that it's going to get better.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm glad you're experiencing that so early on. It's never as good or as bad as it seems, right? And
Exactly.
So quickly. All right, I have to jump because I have to take my oldest to basketball practice, but I'll turn it over to Trish. And if there's other questions and things like that, but Bryan, Paul, Laurie, thank you guys. That was awesome.
Thank you, Ben.
Bye bye, guys.
So yeah, great job.
Arrivederci.
A couple
Getting
minutes.
ready for Italy?
Yeah.
Those travels are coming in handy.
We have a couple of minutes for Q&A, so if anybody on the call wants to put their question into Q&A, we have a couple of moments for that. But I'll end with this question for everyone here on the call. What is your best advice to the students that are on the call that are hoping to be budding entrepreneurs that you would give them because they want to be sitting where you're sitting sometime soon? So Bryan, I'll start that you're the newest entrepreneur. What piece of advice would you leave with our students?
There's no time like the present. I mean, as a student, you're in a really unique position where you don't have a full-time job holding you down besides school. You have a great network of support behind you, from all the professors to the Center for Entrepreneurship to the business school to all these great resources that can help launch this business. And now's the time to do it, because when you're older, you have a family, you have a full-time job. It's going to be a lot harder to get this going than when you're a student and you have these resources around you and the ability to fail. I think that's really important. And the other thing too is just, I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to like computer science and engineering and stuff, they often teach you, like, it's just kind of a mindset of, yeah, you go to school, you graduate, you get your first job, you know, fetching coffee for someone, you get your, you move your way up slowly in a business. There's just this common mindset that you graduate and go to work for someone. And I think, you know, if you have an idea, if you have something you're passionate about, try your own thing. You know, that you don't have to go with the same frame every single time.
Thank you. Laurie, how about you?
Well, I would say social skills, soft skills, call them what you will, are so important. And it's probably been how I've done what I've done. I didn't realize I had them in big quantities. I know the age group we're talking to, you're very digital and technical and text, and you know, I don't want to sound old, but all the things you do. Social skills, being able to talk to people face to face, are hugely important. Develop a personality if you don't have one, or go to Amazon and buy a personality. But I think just being able to articulate what you need, who you are, on every level is super important. And I cannot stress that enough. And it's a commodity that's rare. Being able to write well, to speak well, it's rare. And it's so impressive when you do it well.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. That is definitely something that I know that the dean has been stressing for the last couple of years, just his deanship, to involve that and infuse that into our curriculum. So that's hugely needed in this virtual world, and when we get to the physical.
Yeah. Where you can actually write instead of doing little emojis and symbols, and write properly. I'm telling you, it's not out of style.
I returned to my personality at Amazon, so I can't answer. But, I can say, and again, I kind of said it earlier, but it really is true. It's easy to say, it's difficult to live. And that is truly, truly don't fear failure. And it's a very easy to say, it sounds very trite, but it honestly is difficult to live, because you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take this risk. And if I fail, what are people going to say? What are my friends who went to school going to say about me? What are people, they're going to say, oh, what an idiot. He did it. You're going to think, and here's the reality of it. People are going to think about you for about 3.5 seconds. They're going to go, oh, you had a business, it didn't work, whatever. Okay, what's going on? What's on TV? So the reality is, don't worry about what people think, because they're not thinking about you anyway. Just do what you need to do and do not fear. You're going to fail. Odds are vastly that your whatever idea you're percolating right now, probably going to fail. Hate to tell you, odds are it's going to fail. That's okay. That's not a failure. You're going to learn so much. My little product that I had when I started, it was in Cal State Fullerton. I sold like $3,000-4,000 worth of them, and then it failed. But I learned so much. To Laurie's point about how to talk to suppliers, how to not feel afraid of getting on the phone and calling and asking somebody and saying, look, I need to print something, but I don't know how, and I don't know what to do. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to tell people you don't know what you're doing. I'm telling you, embrace those things. If you can embrace your fear and you can get past that, you're going to be fine.
Thank you. I think it's easier said than done, but I think once you put it into practice and you start to really start to lean on it, and you have good people that you surround yourself with, it makes it a little bit easier to do that. I'm just going to check the questions. There was a question for Laurie. How can your business stand out in the luxury marketplace?
How does it stand out? It's our aesthetic, and it's a combined effort with my business partner and I, but he is, his taste level, his aesthetic, his creativity is beyond. And we have a whole creative team behind him now. So we're known for that. And that is how we stand out. And we take it for granted because we've always done that and been that. And it's more recently that we realized that it's a thing. We have a thing, and we need to monetize it because we focused on that thing. And now the back end, the inventory control, all that we're working on. And we're really, after 35 years, going to be somebody. But we do stand out, and we are authentic. Our look, our aesthetic. The two owners are still involved, even though we have a team behind us. We haven't farmed that out to someone. Our look hasn't, one year it's good, one year it's bad, one year it's pink, one year it's green. It's been consistent across our brands for our entire lifetime, and that's why we stand out.
Perfect. Dean, I'm going to let you close it out here with some final comments, or if you had a couple of questions of your.
Well, I have some comments, of course. And first, I want to thank you, Trish, for bringing all these great people together. This is a great program, and I'm sure our students gain and benefit from it quite a bit. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks,
Second, I'm
Chris.
sorry that Ben had to leave, but Ben, I've known Ben since he was a student in college. And of course, now he's a successful business person. I didn't know he's such a moderator. He did a great job.
Yeah.
We should hire him back for future events because Ben truly did a great job. Then I have a message for Bryan. I am jealous of Bryan because Bryan is a young man, but he's moving on, an entrepreneur, and he's going to get into the real world. I have a sad story to tell you, Bryan. I was 6 years old when my mother dropped me off at school. I am 67. I'm still going to school. So never graduated. Never graduated. So I envy people like you with a great vision. I'm a business, college of business. I'm dean of college of business. It's not a small operation, but I envy people like you, of course, at that age, has a vision and apply what you learn and moving on. Anyhow, I never left school, so I'm envy you, but of course, I congratulate you for having the vision. And of course, this panel that Trish put together, some junior startup like Bryan, of course, and some expert like Paul and Laurie, seasoned in business individuals. This is really diverse. Really, our students could gain clearly from the vision of Laurie and Paul and who they are and where they are and how they got there, and a young, fresh entrepreneur like Bryan. So I really congratulate you, Trish, for having this vision and bringing this diversity into this panel. And clearly, and something that really made me proud that both Laurie and Paul, and of course even Ryan referred to, that you're proud of Cal State Fullerton, and you're proud that you hire people from other schools that obviously work for you. And that speaks volume in terms of who we are and what we do. And really, even though I felt sorry for myself, never followed Bryan's track, getting out, enjoyed entrepreneurship. But what I heard from both of you really made me proud of what I've done with my life, to be what I have done, and makes me really happy. At any rate, congratulations to all of you, especially our very, very fresh, brand new young entrepreneur. Then we need to connect Bryan to our one of our Dean Advisory Board member who is business is making police and army safe. That is his trademark. And
Make that happen.
you have?
We can make that happen.
Make it happen, because I'm sure, I don't want to name that individual, but I'm sure, Brian, get in touch with either me or Trish. You need to talk to that person. That he is in the business of saving lives. And in fact, when you walk into his business, he has a bulletin board and it says how many thousands of lives he has saved so far. I don't know the exact number, but the number is well over 2,000. He has saved 2,000 lives, meaning that 2,000 policemen and army individual have gone home, had dinner with their family because they're using his product. At any rate, and he's also a graduate from Cal State Fullerton. So Cal State Fullerton is an amazing place with amazing graduate, accomplished individual like all three of you. And again, thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Brian, for giving your valuable time to us. And I'm sure we will see each other again. And again, thank you, Trish. This was a great event, and I'm hoping that our students enjoyed it and learned a lot from it, because as old as I am, I learned a lot. I'm quite sure that those young people can learn too as well. Okay, have a beautiful evening and wonderful. Thank you.
Always great to see you, Dean. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Laurie.
So much, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Trish, for putting this together. It was really wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Titans.
All righty. Bye-bye.